Welcome to The Download. I'm Reed Mercer, and this is the week the audio business stopped hiding behind vibes and started showing its hand. Netflix says it's super encouraged about video podcasts. Encouraged by what exactly? We'll get into why the company keeps renewing shows like The Rest is Football and dodging the one number every executive actually wants. Then there's the celebrity gold rush. LeBron James, Lil Wayne teaming up with Carton, Megan Rapinoe launching with Vox. Big names, bigger price tags. The question is whether networks are buying audiences or just buying headlines. And on the money side, podcast ad spend looks steady on paper. I want to know who's actually writing those checks and what happens if even one of them walks. Follow the money, that's basically the whole show today. Plus a shift in how people actually find these shows and what it means for marketing teams this week. Let's start with Netflix and the numbers they left out of the investor call. We want to hear from you. Submit questions via the web form in the description or give us a call at 747-234-2678 and leave your question. Don't be shy. Our AI assistant makes it super easy. Netflix just told investors it's super encouraged by video podcasts. CEO Sarandos said that on the earnings call, according to Podcast News Daily. And then, nothing. No download numbers, no watch hour figures, no retention data. Barrett Media flagged this exact thing on Friday. Netflix skipped podcast viewership entirely in its mid-year investor rollout. So ask yourself, why brag about a number you refuse to show? Here's what that silence is hiding. If the engagement were actually strong, they'd lead every call with it, the way they lead with subscriber ads. Withholding the metric is the metric. But look at what they're doing with their checkbook instead of their mouth. Senyal News reported today that Netflix is renewing The Rest is Football past this year's World Cup. That's not a one-off content buy. That's IP they're building a retention hook around. Think about the calendar. The World Cup ends, the buzz fades. Normally, that show dies with the tournament. Netflix is keeping it alive anyway, which tells you they're not measuring it against podcast benchmarks. They're measuring it against churn. Follow the money on that one. Sports talent with built-in fandom, running year-round, sitting inside a subscription you're already paying for. That's cable bundling economics dressed up as a podcast strategy. Keep the thing people check weekly, and they don't cancel in the slow months. Now, here's where the story gets messier. The Hollywood Reporter, Rick Porter's piece from Thursday, pushed the second season woes narrative on Netflix's video podcast slate. Sarandos pushed back hard, calling the sophomore slump a problem across the whole industry, not a Netflix-specific one. It sounds reasonable. Sequel fatigue is real everywhere in media. But notice what he didn't do. He didn't release the numbers that would actually settle it. You can't dispute a narrative with a quote. You dispute it with data, and Netflix has the data. They're choosing not to show it, which means either the real numbers back up the criticism, or they're sitting on something so far above the noise it'd be a flex to release, and they're still not releasing it.
That's the tell for me. When a company's thrilled with performance, they leak the number to a friendly reporter within a week. When they're managing a story, they issue a statement instead. So if you're running content strategy at a competing platform, what do you actually watch Monday morning? Not Netflix's press quotes, their renewal decisions. Right now, those decisions say sports IP earns a longer leash than celebrity chat shows do. And that raises the real question sitting underneath it all. If a platform's own numbers won't tell you whether a bet's working, what will? Maybe it's who else is willing to put a name and a paycheck behind the format instead. Building on that silence, let's talk about who's actually willing to put a name and a paycheck behind this format. Take LeBron James. Kyle Koster at Yahoo Sports says LeBron's live podcast is now fueling retirement speculation. Every episode gets parsed like a press conference. That's not content. That's a controlled narrative channel with better lighting.
Then there's rap royalty getting the veteran radio treatment. Complex reported Lil Wayne is teaming with Craig Carton on the joint venture show. They taped the debut live at Fanatics Fest in New York this past weekend before it drops on YouTube. Deadline and Yahoo both have the launch date, July 22nd. Carton's the audience-building half of that pairing. Wayne's the reason anyone shows up on day one. And Megan Rapinoe stepping behind the mic too. Variety's Todd Spangler reported she's launching Why Are You Like This?, a weekly interview show in partnership with Vox Media. Athlete turned interviewer is basically its own hiring category now. So here's my question for Monday morning. Is any of this building real audience infrastructure, or is it star power rented for a news cycle? Bluntly, a name gets you a launch week. It doesn't get you a season 2. Ask Netflix. Every one of these deals assumes the audience follows the face. Sometimes it does. Plenty of times, the face is the entire strategy, and there's no distribution plan sitting underneath it. And that ties into a bigger number. Who's actually paying for any of this? Because while the talent bets grab the headlines, the real money in this business is concentrated in a much smaller group of advertisers writing much bigger checks.
Building on that funding question, follow the money, and today the money left a paper trail. Inside Radio reported this morning that podcast ad spend held steady through the first half of 2026, with Magellan AI's data showing the biggest spenders alone top $360 million. Steady, good word, reassuring word, but steady is carrying a lot of weight in that sentence, and I want to stress test it before we celebrate.
Shifting gears from who's paying to where the eyeballs actually land. Podcast News Daily and Insider Radio both flag this new study. Clips are now the #1 discovery tool for new listeners. Not the RSS feed, not the App Store. The 60-second cut somebody posted at midnight. Think about what that does to a marketing budget. If clips are the front door, why is anyone still buying banner placements optimized for full episode completion? The acquisition funnel starts vertical and short now. And where do those clips actually get watched? Insider Radio's got the number. YouTube podcast viewing tops 700 million hours a month, up 70% year over year, according to work data cited in that report. That's not a rounding error. That's a format deciding the winner. So look at Pod News' top 50 chart from this week. Rogan's still #1, no surprise there. But scan further down and you'll see the shows built for clip velocity climbing past shows with bigger raw download numbers. Downloads used to be the whole scoreboard. Now they're one input. Here's my actual homework for Monday. Pull your last quarter of clip performance by platform, not by show. If YouTube's carrying the discovery weight Insider Radio says it is, and your clip team is still optimizing for Twitter engagement metrics from 3 years ago, you're marketing to a platform that stopped being the front door. Reallocate the production budget toward vertical cuts built for YouTube's algorithm specifically, and measure Woo listener conversion off clips separate from your download totals. That's the number that's actually moving now.
So, that's the show. Netflix skipping its own podcast numbers again. Withholding the metric is the metric. And nobody on that call blinked. My takeaway? The celebrity podcast rush is a talent bet, not an audience infrastructure bet. And the difference matters come renewal season. If you run ad budgets, watch that top 15 concentration. Steady headlines can hide fragile math. Forward this to a colleague who needs it. Tips, feedback, gripes? The download at heymeta.com. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a review. It actually helps. I'm Reed Mercer. Thanks for spending your Friday, or whenever this hits your feed, with me. Back next week with more numbers nobody wants to publish.